Vodcast, episode 298. I'm your host Jamie, and I am joined by Melly.
Hello.
And Stephen.
How do?
And boy, have we got an action-packed episode for you. So much to talk about. We think we're going to struggle to cram it all in to one single episode, so don't be surprised if this is split into 2 or maybe 3 parts. We will just have to decide once we edit it, won't we, Stephen?
It's hard, isn't it, when you've got one fixture a week, isn't it? It all comes crashing down once we've got one fixture a week, and basically nothing went wrong. We're absolutely plain sailing at the weekend, so where do we fit our moans in this week?
Well, that's it. I mean, the whole reason we get around this podcasting studio is to nitpick.
Yeah.
And if we can't nitpick, then Celtic
What's the point?
What is the point? But the thing is, Melly, Ross County were a pretty indecent team. Ross County,
the manager's a bit.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. No talking about Giakoumakis text here. Ross County are the decent, informed team prior to the fixture, so it could have been tricky.
It could have been tricky. It's one of those ones where every game now you're looking at it going, try to second guess yourself. But when Celtic showed up, you got to Celtic Park, the sun was splitting the sky, the team looked good, and the performance was even better. Because we'll talk about Ross County getting a guy sending off, but before that, Celtic were annihilating Ross County no matter what happened with that sending off, so I don't want that to pivot any blemish on the result. It was 3-0 at that point and Celtic were flying, and nothing will be up there with the first half of the beating Rangers 3-0 because it's beating them 3-0, but the performance on Saturday in the first half was just as good probably.
We could do that thing, Stephen, that other podcasts do, not like Celtic podcasts, but just other podcasts in general. Just spend the hour discussing hypotheticals.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That could have been tough.
I'm not above it.
No.
I'm certainly not above it. What a great performance, and it was a lovely sunny day. It's like that old song, "Oh, Parker's in the sun." Hey, come back. I'm only kidding. Just heard thousands and thousands of clicks off there. I'm only kidding.
People do get wound up by Parkers though, because
they do.
I tweeted, it's great to see Bullers back on the grass at Parkers, and so many their happiness for Turnbull being back. It was completely stop this, Park. It's like
and if what we have learned and what social media has taught us, see if you want something to stop, definitely get really wound up about it.
For sure. If you think for 1 minute that you can stem the tide of Parker, you're too late. It's already out there. It's already happened.
Yeah,
and it's we are somewhat to blame.
Yeah, you could say that it is an absolutely heinous pattern, but in a way that's the point.
That's
isn't
the
it?
point.
That is the point. Everyone
the point.
knows it's terrible, but it's so bad it's funny. What a thoroughly enjoyable performance though. Some great football. I did worry about Ross County because not in the same way about Livingston, because you worry about being able to break them down. They're so negative, it might be one of those absolute slogs. No such worries here. The reason I worried about it was because, as you already said, they're in decent form and beat us home and away last season. Beat us home and away. I'm not the only team, of course, to have done that last season, but we spoke last week about how they had earned the right for us at least to take it seriously as an opponent, for giving them a bit of respect going into this game. But no such respect was given, no quarter given in that game.
Well, I mean,
Malkers
does try and have Rossers playing some football, doesn't he, from time to time?
About Diggers.
He does. A few good players there. That Charles Cook. Cookers is just won an award. I think he might actually be the top scorer in the league. So, but we know that Celtic won't take any team lightly right now. We've got one game at a time, as we always say, and that's the manager. Even after the game came out, when there was rhyming off stuff to him, he's like, all those statements are correct. He's not getting drawn into it. And all we could really ask of Celtic was just to, once we drop points against Handball, just keep winning until the game against them at Ibrox, and then we can take that as it is. And now we've got to that point. We've still got a 3-point lead intact. We've added to the goal difference as well. So if we can get out of Ibrox without losing the game, we're looking good for it, because again, you're looking at the league table, 7 games to go, man.
Insane. It is insane. And we're hitting form. I know this is a cliche, Steve, but we are hitting form at the right time. And some of our players, Gackers up front, another hat trick. I'm starting to look at that team and I'm thinking, Jota, Giakoumakis and Maeda all up front. How do you fit Kyogo and Jota? How do you fit all 4 of them into a front 3?
How bad is it? Might be top scorer still as well.
A 4 into 3 simply does not go. So you've got headaches when they all come back. But The thing about it's actually difficult. I wish Giakoumakis would spread these out a wee bit because it's actually a kind of Podder's curse for a guy to be. That wasn't even a deliberate. But it's like, for a guy to be in such good form, it's actually quite difficult to keep talking about a guy. It's back in the days of Kieran Tierney where we basically had to stop talking about him because we just repeated ourselves every week because he was so good. But Giakoumakis, I mean, consecutive hat tricks that's massive. I can't even remember. It's been a source of. Everyone's been wondering about this. Has that ever been done before? I'm sure it has. But people can't remember. People were saying, Larsson must have done it surely, but I don't think he did.
Because I went back and checked the Wikipedia, because there is a Wikipedia entries for hat tricks scored in Scottish football, and Henrik did score, but I didn't bother diving into any deeper. But I think he scored 2 in a month, but I don't think they were both at Parkhead. So I'm not sure if that has been done before. But you said last week, Mel, he's like an unusual player. He's not like one of these players where he's like oozing quality. I've admittedly been a fan of him for a long time.
Yeah. You did say I like him, didn't you?
Yeah, he's not like oozing quality, but he's throws himself about, he bullies defenders, he gets into positions, and he's very, very effective in the box.
No, effective's the main word I'd use for him, because he's a handful for MD no matter what he's doing, whether it's winning free kicks or even the first goal. He's the only player we've got that Celtic can put that sort of ball into the box and hope to get a goal from it. We've not had that in a long time, I don't feel, because Odsonne Édouard was never that type of player. He rarely scored headers for Celtic, but
he didn't like it at all, those daft crosses.
So Giakoumakis, he's just different. You can put different balls into him because he will. Celtic play a lot of the low crosses in, and at the game I was just thinking about you, Stephen, like this is like your wet dream again with the amount of low crosses we're putting in here. And even with that, with Giakoumakis, he can throw it in high if you want, and with the first goal we've seen, he's above that defender, and just the no chance with him. If we put dangerous balls into the guy, he'll score. And it's the same with him, Kyogo and Maeda, when they've all played up front. Sometimes they're not involved in the game, but they score because Celtic will create the chances and they push the defence right back. They're always on the shoulder. So good to watch, and it was great getting an early goal, because I think there probably hasn't, but I feel like there's been a lack of them just to settle us down when things are going like that, because it was a big game again. Sun's out, you can get a chance to go 6 points clear. No mistakes were made by Celtic.
We were at a Q&A with Ange Postecoglou. Now, we were asked not to record it or that. Yeah,
it's one for the real heads going back a few years. If you know, you know.
We were specifically told not to record it because we got into trouble for this. Similar before.
Where is episode 75? You may be asking yourself.
Episode 75. We'll never know, Celtic. We will never know. It was deleted before anyone could listen to it. But one of the questions that was asked was along the lines of, is this low block, people camping out, 2 banks of 5, 2 banks of 4, or whatever it is this something that's followed Ange about his entire career, Stephen? And he said yes. Right. He says, look, he's used to this. Some of the things that we use to combat it are well known. We've all seen like the ball boys getting the ball out, getting the ball in to play as soon as possible. But he did single out the early goal. He goes, and sometimes you're on early goal because it really dismantles these teams' work ethic. I was going to say it really dismantles these teams' plan and approach to the game. Yeah,
we ask for it all the time. I know it's not as simple as that, but just saying, give us an early goal. Yes, we're trying. I think that was probably the intention at all times. And I have acknowledged this season that it is difficult to do that. There's a lot of panic about not being able to break teams down, and endless talk about low blocks and all that, as you've already referred to there. But these games are hard. These games are hard if you don't know how to go about it, if you're not patient as well. And Celtic are finding ways to do that. You're right, they're hitting the form at the right time. Had that dip, that wee blip we were talking about very recently, where still getting results, but had a wee dip in form where we thought, we're not playing that well. There was a nothing each draw with Hibs, wasn't it? And just weren't playing particularly great. But we're starting to, I think we've been looking like we're going to blow a team away for a while now, and that really was it. Could have had several more as well. I've said that a few times recently as well. To come away from a few games thinking really could have blown them away. Could have had about 6 or 7 against Ross County, and I don't think it would have been undeserved, unwarranted. See, on Giakoumakis, before we move away from him, you talk about how can you get Kyogo back into the team like this. I was having a think about Giakoumakis and like talk about systems, and I've never really been one for that. He plays one certain way, and that's it. He only knows how to play one way. It's
because it's bollocks.
Yeah, it's total bollocks. It's far too literal a reading, an interpretation of the way a team would like to play football, ideally. But Giakoumakis, right? He's in such good form just now that he's made that even a question, right? So before he's been playing this and scored, I think he's got 9 in 7 games or something like that, and he's like 2 hat-tricks in a row at home. He's been playing so well that it has become a consideration now on how to get Kyogo back in the team. You never would have said that. When Kyogo got injured, you would never dream of this big lump up front, or the things people say about him that would hold on to his place if Kyogo is back fit. But Giakoumakis, I've heard a lot of people still with a few misgivings about him, like not really sold on his style of play, his ability. And do you know what? I can't even really disagree with that, because I think we acknowledged last week that he is quite an unusual player, and we've already spoken about it here as well. I've even heard him referred to as he's not all that different to a Yeti. And I know you will be thinking, right, you're going to say that's a lot of nonsense, but I actually don't think it's all that inaccurate.
No.
I think he is quite like a Yeti. He's quite a similar physical profile. They're both about 6 foot, 6'1", both ostensibly central strikers, penalty box strikers. But here's the difference. Giakoumakis is doing it.
Yeah.
He is actually doing it, and he is made through his hard work and determination and his will to become part of this team. He's made himself undroppable, whereas a Yeti never did that. A Yeti scored 5 goals quite early on and then completely fell away. This is what a Yeti should be doing, but he just simply hasn't. Giakoumakis has forced a change of tact, a change of approach from the Celtic team, because he's been so good, which again throws out this business that they can only play one way. The other thing about Giakoumakis, I know I'm talking for a long time about Giakoumakis, but he is the main story of the week. He's become this really, really important player, and he is the archetypal, is the very reason that I think there's no such thing as Angeball, right? Because see, if you think Ange can only play one way and he only needs players that are perfect for the Angeball system, and if you think that Kyogo is the embodiment of that, right? Say, for example, you are playing against Livingston and you're struggling with Kyogo up front to break the team down. Do you take Kyogo off and put on another Kyogo clone because he fits the system, or do you put Giakoumakis on? Well, that's why he's in this squad.
We play totally differently. And it's not by accident, it's something that Ange works on. And as you say, they're completely different. We said that about Albers, he kills his team. But when you've got Gackers up front, he actually does it, and he can manage what the manager wants him to. But when Kyogo's there, we play a completely different way. The way we approach the game, we're not doing so many crosses, we're trying to play the ball at the feet. Kyogo's pulling defences all over the place. And it's sort of these two players alone, sort of for me, kill the myth of this Angeball, the strict one-way system that he wants to play. And whatever you think about the merits of Giakoumakis now or his skill level, Ange just found a way to get the absolute best out of this player. Now, we could be unfair in saying that. We could be saying, because to suggest that seems like there's something a bit fluky. Like, he's a bit of a blunt instrument. He sort of lacks talent, and this great manager has managed to get, some juice out of this lemon that we've got here. But the fact of the matter is, he brought a really good scoring record with him. So it's not that we've got this turkey and we've had to play him and we've managed to get something out of him. It's that we've probably had time to look at him. He's probably had time to get used to the team, and I just went, right, so this is how I get the best out of this guy. And Giakoumakis has went, right, well, this is how I can contribute to the team. Yeah,
I think there's something in that, and I think there's a lot in the fact that Celtic create a lot of chances. They create a lot of chances. The way we set up with the 2 wide players means they get the ball a lot, and at the weekend there, the wide players had the ball. We had a central midfielder over there helping them out, and we had the fullbacks going beyond as well. So the amount of times we overloaded out wide and got balls into the box means if it's Giakoumakis, Maeda or Kyogo, they're going to get goal scoring opportunities because Celtic are putting the ball in there. So for that to be a success, Celtic have to do that. But at the same time, whether it's Kyogo or Giakoumakis, they have to put in the work to get into these positions. And we've seen it, I think we were talking about it last week, like Giakoumakis and Maeda get to the front post and get on things, and that's no fluke. They're guys that are looking to get into goal scoring positions, whether it's through instinct, whether it's through what they've been told, or whether it's just an amalgamation of it all. Celtic are creating chances for these guys, so they're going to score goals. And the fact is that happens, but you can just be happy with that. But Maeda, Jota, Forrest, whoever's playing up front, the work rate they all put in is unbelievable. I mean, if you marry that with the chances Celtic create, it's great to watch, because you're looking at Giakoumakis going, right, supply this guy and he'll score, and see if he doesn't, he gives defenders a torrid time.
Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the tools for some spring cleaning in your pants. Trust me, your confidence is going to be blooming. like the flowers upcoming this spring. Time to clear out that winter bush and join 4 other million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. If you go to manscaped.com, use the code TIMS, you get 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped. And by using that code, you will also receive 2 free gifts. So head on over to manscaped.com, use code TIMS for 20% off, free shipping, and some free gifts. That's manscaped.com. You get the feeling that there's a really distinct style and formation to this team. Like, I was watching Rangers in Europe midweek, and we'll maybe get on to them and how they do, but I think the one thing that differs between us and them is that we have got a distinct identity. All our players are playing as if they are all trying to work towards the same goal. Aberdeen were probably the worst example of it at Ibrox. I seen like a team that just 11 individuals on the pitch don't really know what they're doing. Whereas all our players, you get the feeling they're all there to do specific things. They all know exactly what the role is. I mean, take Maeda, for example. His closing down is absolutely ridiculous, but it's a key to how Celtic play, and then he came up and he created the second goal.
Yeah, and the second one's absolutely brilliant. The first one's across from Jota's a peach, and all Giakoumakis has to do is just bury it. But the second one, it just see Maeda drops off at the back post, heads it back to his forward partner up there, and the first header's good, cleared off the line, but the second one, when it falls back to him, well, doesn't fall back to him, he makes it come in again. Like, that is great play. That's instinct. It's the willingness to be there and just wanting to score. It was brilliant from Giakoumakis and Maeda as well, because Maeda out wide, I think he's better through the middle, but I thought he was brilliant out wide at the weekend.
Stephen, I just get the feeling that all of these players that we're discussing today, but particularly Giakoumakis and Maeda, they're coming into a rich vein of form at a crucial time of the season for us. And I know we say the same things quite a lot about Maeda, but there was like sort of question marks over, is he finally going to make his stamp on the team? And then you have to remember the guy's been here for like 8 weeks.
I know.
It's ridiculous. You know what I mean?
It is. We've long this season, and it's that Kyogo's fault. I blame him for it. We've thrown out the idea that players need to adapt to new scenarios and new surroundings at all. We basically just expect them to hit the ground running, and it's all that Kyogo and Matt O'Reilly's fault. It's all theirs fault. But Maeda, if he kind of falls into the same bracket as Giakoumakis for me, because he's, again, as you say, he's another one whose overall ability has been questioned. Everyone talks about, he just works so hard. Look at him, he's brilliant. He runs a bit. Some of his skill on the weekend on Saturday there was unbelievable. He set up, some of his wee tricks and back heels. He set up Matt O'Reilly for what would have been the goal of the season by an absolute mile, and I'm pissed off with Matt O'Reilly because it's
just on the pitch, man.
It's not the first time he's done that as well, where he has quite tamely passed up an opportunity to score the tap-in that would have made the absolute goal of the season. But just some of Maeda's play, there's been a clip doing the rounds of him chasing somebody down in the 88th minute, just an all-out sprint, chasing down the defender. The defender panics and gives it back to the keeper, and it's just absolutely brilliant. But his overall ability is great, and he's the reason I'm comparing him to Giakoumakis at the moment is because, again, he's had us speaking about him in that tone where we're like, he's working really hard, but I'm not really sure if he's really got it. But I think he's now got to that point where, you remember we were talking about Maeda a few weeks ago, we're at this point, focusing on the negatives is absurd to me, because these guys are just Maeda and Giakoumakis at the moment, as part of a greater whole. The team has been playing very well as well. Yes, I did say greater. It's part of the greater good, the whole that is the Celtic team.
Say whole again.
Yes.
Say whole more.
They form like Voltron, but the two of them specifically are among the main reasons that Celtic are still top of the league. Their goals and performances recently, they've been absolutely terrific.
Yeah, and we're seeing it now. Like, this is what it should be like, because we've seen at the start of the season there was no options, or we were just trying to shoehorn players in and play there and
into a hole, yes,
and get to what was January. But now that we've got the front three the other day was Jota, Maeda, and Giakoumakis, you're like, fair enough. But see if James Forrest had played,
you're like, fair enough.
But at the same time, if it was going to be next game, Kyogo, Forrest and Abada, you go, fair enough. And that's the thing now. We've got all these players, and with Forrest come back into form, Abada's been decent all season, and Kyogo coming back, you're like, the options we have there are very good.
It's one-touch finishes is the order of the week, though, Stephen. We forgot to mention it. Did you know Giakoumakis, the majority of Giakoumakis' goals have been one-touch finishes? Now, I'm not just saying that because it is the talking point of Scottish sports media and everyone just churns it out.
All the rage.
And they're just looking for something to say, Stephen.
We say it as well.
Well, I think we might have said it first. I think it's probably our fault, Stephen. Is that remarkable to you? That a penalty box striker, the majority of his finishes are one touches?
Just before I got here to my work, to the studio, I watched a bit of Sports Scene, and again, James McFadden said, I think all of his goals have been one-touch finishes. And I remember the second one, there was a bit of contention on Twitter as to whether that still counts as one-touch because he headed it and the defender headed it back out and he turned it into the bottom corner, which was a great header, by the way. There was a bit of contention. Is that still a first touch? And I'm like, right, is this even a thing? I'm like, I've heard about 8 people saying it, including me, now that all of his goals are one-touch finish. And I'm thinking, aren't almost all goals one-touch finishes? So I went back and watched all of Kyogo's goals. I think it was like about 18 or something like that. And I think all but 2 of them were one-touch finishes. I'm like, I think that's just what strikers do.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything remarkable about it at all.
Particularly in the nature of Celtic's play with cutbacks and crosses and through balls, and we're just putting things on plates for people to finish.
If anything, it'd be bizarre for... I remember that goal Kyogo scored in Europe where Abada slipped into him and he took the wee roll and the keeper dived and he rolled it into the bottom corner. That was remarkable because he did that. So I think it'd be unusual for a striker to take multiple touches in the box and still have time to finish it. So yeah, that is caught on, but it's not a criticism of him. But it's
just not as remarkable a fact as some people might think.
Lads, all these forward options. Set piece specialists again, boys. Another goal for a set piece.
I think a couple of weeks ago we were on the podcast and you'd said, Melly, that something like Man U hadn't scored and it's some 100-odd set pieces or whatever, like that sort of thing, because it was on these talking points. It's been ages since Celtic have scored from a set piece. Is that 2 in 2 games, 3 in 3 games?
I don't know if it's 3 in 3 or 3 in 4, but it's pretty good going these days. And that's the sort of thing like Giakoumakis gives us as well. But again, Maeda just getting away from his marker and getting in at the back post again. It was a quite unusual finish. And see when he's down celebrating, it's like that's what kind of happens to him, doesn't it? He just does that celebration. He ends up in the deck with his hands in there. And once that one went in, you're like 3-0. First half still going. Like, oh, Malky, you're on to one here. But things went from bad to worse.
It was going to be a long, long afternoon for Ross County at that point, I felt.
People only care when Celtic are rubbish at set pieces, though.
Yeah.
People don't want to hear it if we're scoring the odd one, because at all times it's like, oh, Celtic are rubbish at set pieces. We concede loads, we never score for them. Rubbish. And then we score, and it's like,
it's like the away record. It's like the European away record. This European away record, 14 years, and then you win one, then nobody talks about it. They just let it tot up again. They've always got one eye on it, you know. So if we go 8 games or 7 set pieces without scoring again, it'll crop back up. That's how these things work.
Yeah, but yeah, another unusual goal from Maeda, but right place, right time. We spoke about it.
A habit of it.
Yeah, a number of times now. He's just popping up in the right areas to get goals, and how can we fault that? Our attacking players are just arriving in great areas, and as I said about that second header from Giakoumakis, like, it's not an easy finish to take as well. It might have just been like a header from the dead centre of the goal, but what you often hear people talking about with headers is that his crosses are so good that he didn't have to generate any of the power himself. All he had to do was direct it, but that ball came straight at his head. I basically had to send it back the way it came from it wasn't even a standing start. His weight was going away from goal because he'd already had the first chance.
Is that you saying we can't deny Maeda anymore then?
Yeah,
I don't think we can.
I lumped them into the same bracket a minute ago. If I wasn't clear about that I'm putting them both in the Abada
in the same hole.
There's only God Almighty. There's only one thing I would say, and that is we need to be careful because we do this quite a lot on this podcast. We go, oh God, this is brilliant. He's brilliant. That's brilliant. And then we come up with a tough opponent and we go, did we just overestimate how good the team were? And we've got a couple of tough games coming up. So all I'm going to say is, I just hope that these guys, that this is good form. This is the real deal. This is the real good form. And I'm not doubting it. I'm not saying it isn't, but I'm shitting myself. Basically, it is the business end of the season, and I'm very, very worried. Oh God, I need to do more caveating here, right? So I'm not worried that we're going to lose the league, right? I'm just nervous. I'm a nervous Nelly about the whole thing.
With good reason. It's a title race for the first time in a very, very long time. So yeah, we're not used to this at all. So yeah, I'm not getting carried away. All the caveats you want.
The good thing about us though is that we're doing our own work, and we did get a penalty in this game. Didn't make a dent.
Oh, the first one, before we talk about that one, the first one was outrageous. That handball, the handball in the first half was insane. Like, I don't know what the decision process was. This as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the moment where Jota tries a cross, one of his weak clipped crosses that he tries with a very little backlift, and somebody stuck their hand out and stopped it, and Don Robertson.
He's awful.
Yeah,
this is not the first time we've spoken about Don Robertson on this podcast.
I don't know what he meant, but his body language after that was that it was almost like he was given advantage from a penalty. So the guy handballs it and it falls to a Celtic player, I can't remember who, and it was almost as if he said, well, what do you want? You've still got the ball. Why do you want a penalty? That's absolutely insane. The clearest handball you'll ever see. And we spoke about this handball thing a couple of weeks ago where I said, look, I know it's tricky for refs because most of these handballs are in different circumstances. Their bodies are in different places. There was that one where a guy was lying in the ground and I thought, right, he's not meant that. But I think it's gotten to the point now where referees are just making up their own rules when it comes to handballs.
That's it. And that's been my point about VAR, right? The issue with Scottish referees isn't that they need a second look at it or that they're unfit or that, they want to be celebrities. The issue with Scottish referees is that they just seem to not know the rules. They can't watch the game and remember the rule book all at once. So they can only do two of those three things. So just giving them another look at it would not necessarily end up in the right result, because as we saw, was it last week with the Giakoumakis handball and the assist to Maeda, where it shouldn't have been shot. It shouldn't have been shot. Like, it's just complete contravention of the rules. But Don Robertson, the thing for me that annoyed me about that game was he was doing the thing where he lets the opposition have a yellow card or a red card tackle on a Celtic player and just give them a talking to. And you're thinking to yourself, do you know why? There was one or two in that game where you're thinking, this is precisely why yellow cards exist. For tackles exactly like that. And then the boy ended up fouling Rogic. Rogic had to go off and he gets a red card. And I don't often agree with the commentators, but I think the observation is right that if he got booked for that first tackle, he would not have allowed himself to do another one in the game. But it's like sympathy refereeing. It's if I send you off, it ruins the game for you. So can he do it? But the net result is they got a guy sent off anyway and a Celtic player's injured. And it goes back to, I know you're waiting to come in, Melly, but it goes back to what Anne said earlier in the season. The question we asked him at a press conference was, should the referees offer protection to the players? And he says that's exactly why they're there.
Yeah. Exactly. And if the Ramsey had been booked for the first challenge, and again, don't know what the ref's thinking, it's too early, or they're already a couple of goals down, maybe it'll make it worse. But if he doesn't do that, it doesn't give him the licence to fly in on Rogic like that. And look, he takes all the ball with Rogic, but it's reckless again, man. He flies through the guy, and lucky Rogic sort of sees it coming and lifts his leg, because it could have been a lot worse for the guy. And Rogic tried to play on, but wasn't to happen for him. But again, it's just the ref. You had to done your job in the first place, you wouldn't have had to bring out the red card. And this guy, he was astounded that he'd been red carded. And I'm like, but surely you've been playing here long enough to know that these things happen, because you're not allowed to do it.
There's a school of thought in sort of comedic UFC commentary, not the actual commentators, but people who talk about the sport, that if you may as well foul. So if you, say, for example, poke someone in the eye, you're probably only going to get a warning for it, and you've probably half blinded the guy in the course of this fight, so you may as well do it, because you're not going to get disqualified the first time. You're probably going to get a warning for it. May as well do it. So maybe that's basically what Malky Mackay has sent him out to do. Listen, just go flying in, because no way is Don Robertson going to send you off for that. See, the first one, I agree, it was as dictionary definition yellow card, right? You should have been booked for that. I don't think it was any more than that, because I think you do. There was people saying like it was a straight red, but I think you do still have to leave room for a category that is just a bad tackle. Now, I'm not saying you need to let them happen. You need to allow them to exist, if you know what I mean. If that makes any sense. There is a category in between yellow card and red card that's he's just made a mess of that tackle. I did wonder that when I watched the game back, Ramsey, was it? He got sent off, right? There was a moment before he got sent off where he made a really timely block on a Hatate cross. So Hatate got in behind and he was on the goal line making his way towards goal, and Ramsey got back and blocked him. I thought, with the benefit of the fact that I knew what was coming, I was like, is his confidence up? Has he got a wee rush of blood to the head from that? Because he made a really big timely intervention for his team, and then 2 minutes later he's gone through Rogic. Just maybe the adrenaline's gone.
Ange doesn't ever talk about refereeing decisions, and again at this Q&A,
We do.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Sure
Someone needs
we
to.
have to.
I know. We don't want to though.
No,
That's the thing. Ange is completely different. He takes a completely different approach. He just wants to get on with the game, and that's fair enough, and that's admirable. And he says, look, they're obsessed with refereeing decisions in this country, and to an extent, we are. But that is because I genuinely believe that they're holding the game back a lot of the time. And it's mostly because the refereeing decisions in this game do often quite have a material impact on the outcome of a game. Quite often they do. Or, like in the Celtic game, we've got Tom Rogic injured. Somebody's had to go off as part of it. You were saying, Melly, something to do with, like, I saw Rangers get a penalty. Now, you corrected me, Stephen, off air. I'd sort of said, I feel like Rangers get a penalty every fortnight. I feel like that wee graphic comes up on Twitter, penalty to Rangers every couple of weeks. And I think they've only had 7 in the league this season. But interestingly, Melly, what was all of Celtic's penalties have come from when we are drawn or winning? You know better than me.
Well, it's a tweet. It's not my info. I seen a tweet earlier. Somebody put it in the group chat. But every penalty Celtic have had, they've either been winning or level. And through getting the penalty, it hasn't resulted in Celtic getting any more points than they would already got in the game. Like the Giakoumakis one, we were drawn, we got the penalty, missed it, we didn't gain anything from it. That's his fault for missing. But Rangers have had 7 penalties now, but this was before yesterday's game, and every penalty they've had, they've either been level or trailing in every game. And as a result of these penalties, they have got 13 more points than they would, and Celtic have got no more points than they would through penalties. So, well, no, that's wrong actually. So, because that wasn't including yesterday's game, so it'll be, 15 points maybe?
So citation needed on that, but it's just an interesting little tidbit to consider. But there is the thing that gets me is I'm always nervous when the league is coming. Is it officially down to a wire, Stephen? Would you say this is a wire it's down to?
There's a wire on the horizon. That well-known phrase.
And we've got big games against Rangers. Every game's going to be big.
Yeah.
And these marginal refereeing decisions sometimes, I mean, that penalty they got, the Morelos one they got yesterday.
I've not seen
that's the worst of the lot, and that is the worst of the lot.
I have never seen a penalty. Now, maybe by the book or by the definition, whatever, apparently some referee on Sky Sports.
Bobby had a new beard. He had it all done. Like Turkish burger or something.
It's a Hollywood Hogan.
But some ex-referees on Sky Sports saying it was definitely a penalty.
What?
I have never seen it like it, and it's like the defender was in front of him, Stephen, and in front of Morelos, and reached back and pulled Morelos' shirt from behind or something. Anyway, Rangers got a penalty. The reason I bring it up is because these referees every week we end up talking about them, and it's because they're rotten. And if you're going to moan about a ref, you might as well do it after you've won a game.
Yep,
it's tedious. It really, really is. But something needs done about it. I don't know what, because we've already had the discussion about making them full time and all that as well. But what I think we need to do, if we're ever going to do that, if we're ever going to make them full time, we need to purge the current lot, because making them full time is going to achieve absolutely nothing.
Hey, Bobby Madden want an extra 30 grand a year.
We need to make it appealing for people to actually want to go and be good at a referee. Like, I don't know what kind of mindset that is. Because sure as shit isn't me. I wouldn't want to referee for
never
for twice what they're getting just now. But we need to encourage. I don't know, how do we create an environment where people think, do you know what, I want to change the game for the better, I want to get into refereeing and I want to be good, I want to be better than what's gone before. How do we create that environment? Because we absolutely need it.
Do you think
the bar's low, but so it's surely...
There is that,
Do you think we just need to be a wee bit more compassionate towards the refs? Do you think we need to hug the refs?
Hug a ref.
Hug a refie?
The campaign starts here.
Instead of coming on this podcast every week and slaughtering them for being terrible at their jobs, have a wee bit of compassion, a wee bit of empathy, and ask, how can we help you be better at your job? Is that what we need to do?
Hey, referees, hey, it's okay.
Look, patreon.com/20Minute Tims. That's what we do for a living instead of being referees. So you can sign up to patreon.com, support this wonderful podcast, get lots and lots of wonderful extra content. It starts at about £2.50 per month. Business end of the season. Lots of pre and post match coverage, lots of great Celtic features coming up, videos, writing, podcasts, us three in this room. It's all done by Celtic fans. It's how we cover the games. Patreon.com/20Minute Tims.
And just to confirm that wink I just gave the camera is available as an NFT if you want to purchase that. Getting into that game as well.
NFTs are it's news to me. Right, okay. NFT does not have to be like a chimpanzee.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. So we can work it.
We can work it. We can ask John Terry. Rangers in Europe. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I am of the belief with all these games coming up, as we've discussed, the games against Rangers, very big matches. We've got 3 very big games against Rangers in the next couple of weeks. I am of the opinion that I don't really think Rangers are going to win the Europa League. So the further they get in the tournament, the more minutes put into their thin squad, the better for me. I think it harms them, and I think after European games, we saw it against Dundee there, they didn't have the cleanest of victories against Dundee. So I'm happy to see Rangers progress in this in the Europa League, purely because Martin Melly, I think it's going to harm them domestically.
We're going to end up extending the season again. Is
aye.
Or not, rather.
No, we didn't do it last time,
Never
remember? Thursday night was just a fragment of your imagination. I don't want to see them doing well at all because the way I am, but when I looked at the draw on, was it Friday? I seen the teams that were in, I was like, don't get Braga, man. That's probably the easiest one for them, and that's the team they got. But all the teams in there should be decent. Now, I get what you're saying, like minutes in the legs is probably going to do it, but it just doesn't seem like it's having that much of an effect right now in the games. They do have a game before they play us in the cup game, so hopefully it does start to have an effect, because I think they've got St Mirren next away from home, and then it's into after the game against us even. So it's not as if they've got difficult games until after the split, and they might be out of Europe, they might still be in it by then, but they get through this Braga tie that semi-finals, and that's too close for me. I need somebody to put them out.
Some big teams in there. They got Atalanta or Leipzig next. Is that their potential opponents? Stephen, what do you feel about the Rangers? Do you think that argument of the more time they spend in European competition, that the better it is for our chances of winning the league?
Yeah, I've thought that for a while now. I never expected them to get past Dortmund, but I thought that before that. It's a kind of win-win for Celtic. I completely agree with Melly. I don't want to see them do well at anything now. I'm just that wild. Just that bit. 100% petty. 100% I'll cop to that. I don't want to see them do well. I don't want to see them win anything. But there is a part of me that thinks, the more games, the better, really, because we've got the same amount of league games left, but Celtic don't have any other distractions outside of the cups and stuff like that, or the cup rather. So that's how I'm choosing to look at it. Whether they get confidence or potentially demoralised from a heavy defeat and they go and smash up a city, could derail their season a little bit as well. Who knows? Many twists to come, hopefully. But I think it is probably quite good that they're going to be travelling.
I know I'm genuinely not being obtuse when I say this, right? Maybe I just, at the back of my mind, I'm like, well, they're not going to win the thing, right? So all my opinions are based or premedicated, predicated on that they're not going to win. So beyond them winning it, I really couldn't give a crap what happens to them. You know what I mean? So get more games, and I think they do kind of struggle with the Euro hangover. I think we're benefiting now from having more time on the training pitch as well, which is something that we've never had.
Yeah, well, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think we've already spoken about how we're hitting our straps at just the right time here, but I don't think it's a coincidence that we've got a little bit more preparation. We've never had this. I mean, it felt like about 6 months between games, really, when we come back for that first game a couple of weeks ago. So I don't think I don't think that should be dismissed, the amount of time that we're getting to actually prepare. Getting players back, of course, getting important players back. Yeah,
back very soon, probably. Might even be back for the Rangers game.
Yep, Turnbull made an appearance as well. Great to see him back, because I think he's a huge player for Celtic. It's maybe
underrated.
Yeah, I think so. He's playing every game earlier in the season. So yeah, things are going well for Celtic. So long may it continue.
The pleasing thing at the weekend, there's loads of pleasing things, obviously. But again, we just didn't look like we conceded a chance, never mind a goal again. And when we've got that at the back and we're so solid, I mean, Joe Hart's, I think he just kind of looks for something to do after a while because he's got nothing to do. And then when you see all the forward players, you're like, maybe this week in between games, or what, 5 or 6 days we had last week, is benefiting us. Like, Dundee United are a good team, went away there, beat them handily. Ross County, another team doing well in the league, beat them 4-0, 3-0 up, and within half an hour, 35 minutes, then they get a guy sent off. The sending off kind of didn't ruin the game, but impacted the game, because 3-0 at half time, down to 10 men, Celtic can take the foot off the gas, bring on guys like Turnbull, and that was good to see him back. So it's just good to see that at the back we're so solid, and that's the thing, because I know we can score goals, but going into this game at Ibrox, that's the thing that's pleasing me the most, because we'll all hear about Celtic's dodgy defence from pundits and all that, but if you look at the record now, there's no way you can say that.
We are so solid at the back, Stephen. We're about to wrap up. You have 21 seconds.
I didn't have one, so I didn't take it there. But I was desperately trying to get Romeo Dunn in there as well.
We're like the front three here, because when he makes it right, I'll immediately clock you. I give you the eyes, and I see you making the run.
We start shifting in our seats a wee bit.
You checked your run, and I thought Stephen's not ready. I'll take it on.
The vision, your vision. We side eye there. We all start. You can tell who's got a joke because their face starts going red.
We're quite subtle about it, but off camera, Melly's like a dog at the window waiting for an owner to come back. Oh, Melly, have you got? Okay, Melly's got a pun.
You're clicking your fingers in the back.
Right, where on earth were we there?
So we're basically wrapping up. Well, to be honest, I think we should all give ourselves a pat on the back for making it through 40 odd minutes of this podcast with only one match to talk about. There is another flagship before the Rangers game. Obviously, international break, we'll do a flagship. We will also have live match build up on Patreon, live reaction on Patreon, and a reaction podcast, all the up and coming Rangers game, as well as some special bits of video content that have been out this week and will be coming out. So full fan led coverage of the Rangers game.
Going into a massive period for the old hoops sleds. Massive. It's going to be.
This season's flown in, hasn't it? It's absolutely flown in.
In some ways, it has. It really has. Overall, I think it's absolutely flown in. But then when I went back and watched Kyogo's goals just so I could be snide about something people were saying. Purely, and my motivations were laid bare there. When I went back and watched that, remember his goal against was. What was the Alkmaar? It feels like years ago. Feels like absolutely years ago.
I just want us to take a minute because, this might be the last happy podcast we record.
As well, we're all happy here. Everybody's going in form, and then you're just thinking, we're all away in international duty, man. That's not treated as well so far this season. We've had lots of players come back injured, and guys like Matt O'Reilly and Giakoumakis getting call-ups to them when they don't usually get them. It's what happens when you're playing well and doing so well. Players will get rewarded like this, but just come back safely, lads.
I was thinking about that as well, and I know Ange is a bit more diplomatic about this. He's very open about being very positive in the main about international football, because he comes from there. He was an international manager famously. So I was thinking about this, and it was like, right, we always panic when our players go away for international, because we do get those injuries, and we've got players who travel really far. Japanese players, Tom Rogic is away all the time. Australian. I was thinking, right, there is that, but at the same time, we've got really good players there, and if you don't want that, don't sign Japanese players. And if you're going to sign Japanese players, don't sign ones that are good enough for the Japan team. So we do see the benefits of this as well.
Luckily, just before recording, I did see a tweet. I think Maeda's pulled out. Yeah, he's pulled out. Furahashi's obviously not travelled because he's coming back to fitness. So this is it. I feel like this episode's a bit like Calm Before the Storm. I think every single flagship podcast after this is going to be a biggie. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of 20 Minute Tims. Thank you so much. If you've been watching on YouTube, please subscribe, leave a comment below. If you listen on podcast apps, please leave us a review. But most of all, thank you for listening and watching.